Hey guys, Tisha here, and we are back for another Love Times 3 chapter read. We are in chapter 9. It's entitled Children by the Dozen. Please excuse any loud sounds that you hear. They are working on the roof, as I said earlier, and as a result, you might hear a bang here. I got scared too. I was shook, like my stomach dropped. I jumped like this. A warning would have been nice. But anyways, let's continue. Lo, children are a heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. As arrows are in the hand of a mighty man, so are children of the youth. Happy is the man that hath his quiver full of them. They shall not be ashamed, but they shall speak with the enemies in the gate. This is Psalm 127, 3 through 5. Vicky. On June 7th, 2010, I gave birth to Victoria Berlin Darger, Tori, at home with the help of a doula and a midwife. Joe was there, as he had been for the births of all our children. So were Alina and Val, along with our 3 oldest daughters, who were witnessing a birth for the first time. Good gracious, I wish I knew they said how old the daughters were at the time, because there is a lot going on during a birthing experience. I think about my mom. This is off topic, y'all. Y'all know I love to go on a tangent sometimes. When I was giving birth, first of all, I had my son at 34 weeks. They made me have him early because my blood pressure was skyrocketing and they were worried. They didn't want me to have a C-section because they thought I would bleed out, and they didn't want him to stay in me because they thought I would stroke out. So there was a whole bunch of stuff going on. And my mom was in the room, and at the part where you're supposed to push, my mother was supposed to be holding my leg, but she was too busy staring down there saying, "Thank you, Jesus, thank you, Jesus." That is an experience. They had the mirror down there, and I told them to move it. I didn't. As soon as I saw what they were seeing, I was like, take it away. Anyways, back to this. Having all my family close by during this miracle is one of the things I enjoy most about giving birth at home. The rest of our children were lined up outside the door, waiting to hold their new sister. Later on, in keeping with a family tradition, they all voted on her middle name. Oh, that's cute, to let them kind of like feel like they're a part of the process, especially since they keep having all these kids. Tori is my 8th child and 19th for Joe, who also is the stepfather of Val's 5 children from her first marriage. We have 13 girls and 11 boys. If there were ever a movie about our family, it would be called Cheaper by the 2 Dozen. Being the middle child in a large family, I was surrounded by siblings as a kid, so it feels natural to me to have my own big family. When Alina, Joe, and I were first married and still childless, we would often invite our younger siblings to stay the night with us because we enjoy them so much. It didn't feel like a home without the pattering of little feet. I love everything about the experience of creating a family, the pregnancy, sacredness, and joy of giving birth, and then watching each personality unfold. Our lives are centered on family for reasons that go beyond the enjoyment of parenthood. We believe in the Mormon doctrine that teaches that we were God's spirit children and dwelt with him in heaven before coming to earth. During this pre-existence, each of us agreed to be born and receive a physical body so we could be tested here in the second stage of our spiritual development. Okay, that's interesting. Many spirits are awaiting the opportunity to come to earth through parents chosen in heaven. So this has to deal with that spirit baby stuff that and I'm trying to be disrespectful when I say it, that Robin talks about, because she said a few times that she saw babies in the spirit that were supposed to be with them. By living righteously, which includes raising our children properly, we hope to qualify to live together again in God's presence. It is definitely a sacrifice to have so many children. There are many things we've each given up to make our children a priority. For me, it was guitar lessons, traveling, developing my computer skills, and interacting with clients when I worked in an office. But mothering is what brings me the most joy in my life. The decision to have another child is something Joe, Alina, and Val and I have always prayed about and discussed together because it affects all of us. I'm not knocking people who say mothering is their life. I think that does create kind of a problem later on, though. I would say mothering is a part of my life because at some point my mothering dynamic with my child is going to change. It's already had different changes as he's gotten older. So now my son is 17. Next year will be his last year in high school. We're already having certain discussions about what that's going to even look like for our dynamic because he's going away for college. I already know he's going to get accepted because he's very smart. He's very active in things. So that's not going to be the thing. The thing is going to be, what is this new shift that we're going to make? Because I want him to go off on his own and to become an even more productive citizen and to add to the world. But what does that mean for my mothering? So I hear what she's saying. I just can't make mothering my all. Love my child. Love him with all my heart. But I can't make him my all. Alina, for instance, has diabetes, and thus a pregnancy puts her health at risk, which concerns us all. She needs careful monitoring and has many doctor's appointments when pregnant, which makes it hard for her to work every day. As you might imagine, Joe, Alina, and Val greeted with trepidation at my announcement 2 years after the deep depression I experienced with my 7th pregnancy that I was ready to have another baby. Oh yeah, I would have probably been like, girl, you're done. The way she described it and how she was balled up in the closet and she just didn't know she wanted, like she really went through it. So 2 years later to be ready to have another one, I would want us to go sit down in front of a therapist and really talk that thing out. See if she's really mentally ready, because that was a lot to deal with. As you might imagine, they greeted me with trepidation with my announcement 2 years after the deep depression I experienced. We discussed it among ourselves for several months, weighing the pros and cons. Ultimately, though, having another child has always been a careful consideration, decision made individually by each wife with Joe. When Joe, Alina, and I were first married, we read stacks of parenting books and then came up with a plan for raising our children and developing a strong family culture. We wanted our children to grow up together. So one of our first decisions was to share a home. That makes it easier for Joe to see all of his children every day, and it helps his children bond as siblings. Kylie, one of Val's daughters, was 9 when she wrote her mom a letter complaining that all the kids were being mean except Jed, my son. He is nice no matter what, and he always loves me. It would be much more difficult to foster these kinds of bonds if we lived in separate homes. That's true. I interact mostly closely with my own children, but Val, Alina, and I are available to and love all the children equally, regardless of who their biological mother is. It doesn't always come as naturally to love another child as much as you love your own. Something a lot of today's blended families can relate to. There are times I have to work at it. Joe more fully understood that challenge when Val came into the family. As a stepfather, he had to love and treat her children just as he did his own offspring. I don't think any of us anticipated how difficult it would be to blend our families when Joe married Val. Yeah, because those children went from being around their other siblings to being removed from that situation to now coming into your home where you were once their uncle and now you're supposed to be their father. So, of course, there was just differences with that. And then you add the different personalities and the dynamic that those kids had from those set of parents to now this. Of course, it was complicated. We had different family cultures that sometimes clashed, especially regarding child rearing. Some of our mothering practices were better and some of hers made more sense. For instance, Val relied on her oldest children to help with the younger ones far more than we did. Bedtime was a problem because while our children were used to getting into bed and going right to sleep, her children were. Ours were night owls who took hours to settle down. Okay, so it sounds like Val had more structure, we'll say. Now with the new siblings sharing their rooms, they thought it was one big slumber party every night. We exchanged a lot of parenting ideas as we discussed such issues, and we adapted our style to benefit all the children and get them into the same routines. All three of us would prefer to be full-time mothers if we're financially possible. It's not, but we decided it was a priority to have at least one stay-at-home mom. We take turns working and being home depending on which of us currently has an infant. The working moms take great comfort in being able to leave their children with a woman who truly loves them. After Tori's birth, I became the stay-at-home mom with 4 other children to watch over at that time. My 2-year-old son, Val's daughters, who were 9 months old and 4, and Alina's 4-year-old daughter. It's a lot going on. I try to fill the role of mother as completely for all the other children as I do for my own. One day, Alina's daughter, Allie, was sad because her mom was at work. I scooped Allie onto my lap as I sat in the rocking chair, but she resisted me when I tried to comfort her. I'll be your mom when your mom is gone, I said, and when your mom gets home, she'll be your mom. Allie had been worried that accepting comfort from me was being disloyal to her mom. When I worded it that new way, though, she was fine and so was I. Our goal in raising our children is one shared by most parents. We want them to grow up to be good, decent people who are able to make the most of their God-given talents. I agree with that. There are aspects of this lifestyle that help us to accomplish that mission. In a big family like ours, children learn to be unselfish, to be helpful, and to understand, from a very early age, a wide range of personality types. They also learn to respect each other, when possible, take responsibility for themselves. One example, by age 5, our children serve themselves at meals while the older children serve the food to the youngest children. They learn to eat up whatever they dish onto their plates with no wasting allowed, in theory that is. Sometimes our children become too responsible. One day, Alina went into the kitchen to make a baby bottle and found her 4-year-old daughter, Vanessa, already there, carefully measuring formula into the bottle. When Alina asked how many scoops of formula she used, Vanessa answered 3, just like Maddie showed me. I finally had to hide the formula because we were going through it too fast. Vanessa is in an excess of preparedness, would get 5 or 6 bottles ready at a time and leave them lined up on the kitchen counter, waiting for a baby to get hungry. Some inevitably sat out for so long that their contents, I always say this word wrong, that their contents had to be poured out. Another time, Alina and I told all the other children to get into the car so we could visit one of the grandmothers. Her son Joseph was 5 at the time, and she told him to put on his seatbelt. "You can't make me," he said. "I have my freedancy, free agency." Alina had to explain that free choice comes with consequences, and the choice not to buckle up meant he might get hurt if we got into a car accident. Y'all, I gotta be honest. I don't buckle up. Did you hear me? I don't buckle up. Okay, let me explain. I buckle up most of the time, or what I do is I buckle, but I move the strap because y'all can't tell. I'm short, right? I tell people I'm 5'2.5", but my son says I'm 5'1.5". Anyway, the point is I'm short, and I have a large top area, and that seatbelt just is so uncomfortable because it sits weird on my neck, even when I move it down, and it's just too much. It cuts across here. I feel really uncomfortable with the seatbelt. So I buckle up, but I move that strap. Or sometimes I don't buckle up at all. I know, it's terrible, y'all. Oh, and it's against the law where I live, but Don't judge me. I won't judge you. You do have a choice, she said. Buckle up or stay home. He buckled up. We limit our children's screen time, television, video games, and computers. There is plenty of fun to be had in our big backyard, which is equipped with a volleyball pit and an in-ground trampoline and a bicycle and a skateboard track that circles our property. Our children all have plenty of playtime close to their age within the plenty of playmates close to their age within the family, so they can keep each other entertained for hours on end. The neighbors' children often want to come home to our house because there's always something going on. A few summers ago, 5 of our boys decided to build a fort in the backyard. No girls allowed, of course. They worked on it from sunup to sundown, day after day, and any friend who came over quickly enlisted to help. They gathered scrap wood, discarded carpet, and every spare nail or screw they could find. They happily took an old couch off a neighbor's hands and begged for furnishings they thought we might part with. By the end of the summer, they had a fully decorated, carpeted hut. Our children know from time to time, they are toddlers, that they can't be unruly. Oh, they know from the time they are toddlers that they can't be unruly. There's just isn't a place in our crowded house for such behavior. Our sons Tavish and Ashton were about 4 and 5 years old when a friend of mine came to visit, bringing along her 2 boys to play. The young visitors immediately ran through the house, bouncing from one thing to another thing and leaving a path of destruction in their wake. A broken figurine, a ripped book, dissipated Barbie. When the boys finally left, Tavish came to me and said, "Mom, that wasn't very fun. They just don't play right." I agree. I taught my son very early on what he was going to be allowed to do and what he wasn't going to be allowed to do. I didn't move figurines. I didn't move picture frames, nothing, DVDs, nothing was moved. He got a no, don't touch it. And that was... And that was the extent to that. I was not going to drive myself crazy with all of that. Me having a routine for him and certain rules really helped me later on in life. So I can understand what she said. You're not about to... When you take your child to the nail shop and you get compliments because your child is sitting still, what does that say about what's going on? A lot of people aren't disciplining their children or creating boundaries for their kids. Because you're not going to embarrass me when we go anywhere. In many plural families, each mother, along with the father, disciplines her own children. In our family, because we have a unified parenting style, we discipline each other's children when they are young, but each mother takes responsibility for her own children as they get older and the problems get more complex. If I catch an older child lying, for instance, I let the other mother deal with it. Sometimes dad has to lay down the law. Joe didn't like how long one son's hair was getting, and he gave him a choice. Give your hair cut or I'll do it for you. It was an easy decision. How old was he? I'm just asking, how old was he? I remember, here I go again telling another story. My son has locks, right? And he wanted them for a very, very long time. Now, some of you may know my family is Jamaican. I have several family members with locks, but we're taught very early that there's a difference between locks and there's a difference between dreads. And I needed my son to, number one, understand that difference, as well as understand what the process was, what it would entail, all these things. So he wanted locks for a long time. He wanted them since he was like in middle school, 6th grade. But I told him that I was not going to allow him to get them until he really understood what it was, because it wasn't going to be a hairstyle. If he was going to do it, this was going to be something that he was committed to doing, because I'm going to put my money into it as well. And he did all his research and everything like that. And when he got to an age that I felt like he wasn't doing it just because he saw a lot of family members with it or some of his friends with it, then I allowed him to get it. His lock anniversary is actually the end of this month, and he loves them. It will be 3 years, and I should have let him do it a long time ago, but I just wanted to make sure that it was something that he wanted to do. So I guess I just talked myself out of my own judgment on Joe for making him cut his hair. You see, at first I was like, no, why you gotta cut his hair? And then I did that whole spiel like, oh yeah, you didn't let your child decide what his hair does either. Okay, I'm a hypocrite, y'all. Okay, back to the story. Val got her daughter Maddie a new bicycle for her 18th birthday and wanted to keep it a big surprise. The day Val brought her bike home, she asked one of her sons to conceal it in a blanket and carry it into the house. My son Jed, who was 13, happened to be walking by the front door, just as the bicycle was being carried in. He went straight to Maddie and said, "Maddie, you're getting a bike for your birthday." Oh. The party was hours away, but the surprise was ruined. Val was furious, but instead of talking to Jed about it, she let Joe and me handle the situation. Another time I found a chair leaning up against the house just below a certain child's bedroom window and figured someone was trying to sneak out at night. But it was Val's child, so I told her what I'd seen and let her deal with it. We have to work hard at being fair referees in our children's disputes to avoid favoring our own kids and appearing one-sided. It can be pretty tough for a child not to be automatically backed by his or her mother, but if we didn't have that philosophy, our family would break down into warring tribes. Of course, the children try to play us against each other. If one mother says no, they've been known to ask another mother in hopes of getting a different answer. Kylie, Val's 9-year-old daughter, is very free spirit who loves to make up stories, dance, and dream and the day away. It's not easy to get her to focus on her chores. She always has something much more interesting to do. Alina, who was trying to get Kylie to pick up toys in the playroom one afternoon. Okay, I read it right. I thought I read it wrong. Kylie would pick up a few and then get distracted and start playing with her younger sisters or wander off to her bedroom to work on a story she was writing. Alina finally sent the younger girls out of the room and told Kylie she had to stay until the pile was picked up and sorted in the toy bins. 3 hours later, after Alina had to search for Kylie and take her back to the playroom several times, the task was finally finished. Oh no. No. That evening, Kylie went to Val and said, "Mom, there are some things I've been wanting to talk to you about." Val could tell by her tone that this was something important, so she led the way to a private spot and invited Kylie to explain. Kylie was very serious and she went on, "I have this thought that comes in my head over and over. I don't try to make it come. It just does. The thought is I want Aunt Alina out of my life." Oh, God. Why is she calling her aunt? Wait a second. They call each other aunts? Because they're cousins. And Val and Vicky are sisters. So, okay, they call her aunt, okay. I try to make it go away, but it just keeps coming. Val had to help Kylie understand that she might not always like what Alina wanted her to do, but she still had to do it. We use timeouts, loss of privileges, and grounding to discipline our children. Rather than bribing or yelling at them, we try to validate their feelings, to listen and talk to them. Our goal is to teach them to express and to take responsibility for their feelings and behavior right from the start. But have you ever tried to send 4 little girls to timeout together? One day, our 4 youngest girls went into the bathroom and dumped all the shampoo and bubble bath into the tub. When they turned the water on, there were bubbles everywhere. I had them come out of the bathroom and made them fold their arms and sit in different spots in the hallway while I cleaned up the mess. Soon I heard giggling. They were squished up against each other, laughing. I made them move apart and went back to the bathroom. Soon there was snickering. They had scooted close enough together to touch toes. Our children refer to us collectively as the moms. We each have our own parenting personality, which together makes us a great team. So they're the moms there, but down below it was aunt. Yeah. I don't understand. I think that maybe they go between both, and okay, whatever she's saying here. The moms. We each have our own parenting personality, which together makes us a great team. Alina is protective, but also fun and really good at relating to teenagers. Val is easygoing and a good mentor, but less strict because she doesn't like conflict. I'm strict, but I also like to let the children experiment. It's nice to have another mom to lean on for help when I need to give special attention to one child or when I'm not sure which approach to take in a difficult situation. Once I was going the rounds with a daughter who had just turned 13. She was constantly on the phone with her friends and had pulled away from the family. Her grades had slipped as her social life took center stage. I grounded her until she caught up in school. When she finished some missing assignments, I relented to show my love and appreciation for her efforts and gave her permission to go to a friend's house for a few hours. She was due home in 30 minutes when I got a call from the friend's father. He asked me to let his daughter know he was on his way to pick her up. You can imagine my reaction when I told him I thought the girls were at his house. It turned out they both lied to us in order to hang out with some boys. I was worried and hurt, and I felt manipulated. When we tracked down my daughter, I was so angry I wanted to yell and scream, but Val and Alina talked me down, helping me to separate my emotions from the situation and settle down on appropriate consequence for my daughter's behavior. Yeah, I probably would have yelled. I gotta be honest, I probably would have yelled. I try not to do that now because I've had several talks with my son, and me yelling does not work for him. So it's very rare that I yell now. He responds better to how I'm speaking right now. And I'm real matter of fact with it, and that gets it done. But I have to be honest. You lie to me like that, then you scared me because I didn't know where you really were. Yeah, I probably yell. We obviously don't hide our lifestyle from our children. We allow them to decide for themselves, though, how much to disclose to their friends. If they forget to fill in the blank, some interesting moments can result. Once, one of my daughters brought a friend home who knew I was her mom and Joe was her dad. The friend saw Joe kiss Alina, and they worked together in the kitchen. Who's that? The friend asked a niece who was at our house. Oh, that's Alina, my niece answered. But that's not her mom, the friend said. Oh, yeah, well, they're polygamists, the niece said. Another time, a classmate asked one of our daughters a first grader why she always brought a sack lunch instead of eating the school lunch. Because I'm a polygamy. I love the innocence of young kids. Because I'm a polygamy, she answered cheerfully. She knew we were different and thought that that's why she got the cheaper brown bag lunches. She hadn't yet grasped the concept of fragility. Polygamy wasn't a persistent topic of public discussion when we were growing up, but times have changed. Our children are often confronted with the negative ways directed and indirectly. One of Val's sons was appropriately suspended from school after he called a classmate a fag. Oh, y'all. Sorry. That term, it really, really bothers me. And I hope that they gave him the appropriate punishment because that's I don't like that at all. But there was no similar repercussions when a classmate derogatorily called Val's son a plig. Okay. One year, Joe's little brother and his nieces attended the same middle school as our children, and they were in some of the same classes. One of the teachers required her students to bring current event topics for the class to discuss. Okay, back to that plig comment because it's bothering me. If being called a plig is offensive, did they go to the school and have a discussion with the school about that term either? I doubt it. you have to educate people sometimes on some of these things. So, yes, it was wrong. He should have been punished as well. Okay, back to the book because it was bothering me. Someone brought in a newspaper clipping about a marriage that FLDS leader Warren Jeffs had conducted between a young girl and a man referred to as her first cousin. What's a first cousin? One student asked the teacher. The teacher, who knew about their family background, pointed at Joe's niece, whose last name was also Darger, and then at Joe's brother. That would be like those two marrying, she said. Having been singled out because their well-known fundamentalist surname, they were humiliated. When Joe heard the story, he went straight to the principal to explain how insensitive and hurtful her behavior had been to children from our culture, and how such comments emboldened other children to be rude. This wasn't the first instance of school staff saying insulting things about the children from the fundamentalist families. Joe asked the principal to put on a sensitivity training program to his staff. To his credit, the principal agreed and did. That's good. If one of our 4 children is struggling in school academically or socially, we sit down together and discuss it, making use of our very own family think tank. We each have an investment in every child's well-being and success. Everyone makes suggestions, and then we agree on a solution. The same thing happens when a child is acting out in some way. Often one of the mothers in the family is able to provide a perspective or intervene in a way that helps resolve the problem. Alina was having a tough time once with one of her sons who was going through an adolescent phase of being loud and obnoxious. He was constantly playing jokes on people, jokes that he thought were hilarious, but his victims did not find funny. Alina didn't have the patience for his antics. One day, we were having our weekly family meeting, and he burst in the room. "Hey, why did the chicken cross the road?" he yelled out, and then squawked. I began laughing. When he left, Alina brought up how irritated she was with him. I reminded her it was just a reflection of his preteen insecurity and it would pass. Alina later said my comment helped her remember how much unconditional love her son needed during that awkward period. In a typical plural family, the first wife often has at least several children before the second wife comes along, so there's a spread in ages. In our family, the children are so close in age, so we really got slammed when we suddenly had a bunch of teenagers. We've gotten to be really good at raising small children, but we're still getting a crash course in the parenting of adolescents. Compared to their friends, our teenagers have more responsibility at home and more rules. We have a curfew, limit their internet use, and require them to pay some of their own expenses. Really? Really? I don't know, y'all. Sometimes I feel like kids just need to be kids. Adulthood comes so quickly, and like once they hit a certain age, they're slammed. So I get the limiting certain things and all that. I wonder what expenses they require for them to pay. Anyway, we discourage our children from dating exclusively, something we think they should postpone until they have a serious interest in someone that could lead to marriage. I, too, tell my son not to date exclusively. He did it one time, and the amount of drama that came from that girl, my goodness gracious. It was to the point where when he broke up with her, I was so proud of him, number one. Number two, he was like, "Mom, you were so right. I just need to focus on school," because she really was causing a lot of unnecessary problems. And number three, like, you're not the same person at a young age that you are, when you get older, and you evolve, and that involvement may not involve that same person. Now, I ain't saying that you don't only date someone that you want to marry, not at a young age. You can think about that later in life, but not when you're no teenager like what they do. Since we don't belong to an organized religious group, it can be hard for our children to find friends who share their background and values. I wonder if any of their children, are interested in polygamy. Because they say that, but I just wonder. I wonder if they're like the Browns, where so far no kids have interest in it. With that in mind, we encourage them to participate in activities hosted by a wide variety of religious denominations, including the LDS Church and the AUB and several evangelical churches in our area. I am often asked whether I expect my children to follow this lifestyle. I hope my children choose to live this way because I value it so much as a true principle and a good way to raise a family. But they know it's absolutely their choice. If they don't, I hope I've raised them to be autonomous, responsible adults who have integrity, follow a strong work ethic, and take family and parenting serious. And if I am blessed, they'll think I was a pretty good mom too. Joe. There's a span of nearly 20 years between the birth of my first child and that of my youngest, but the thrill of birth has never diminished for me. Neither has the joy of being a dad. There's nothing quite like coming home from work and being greeted by a dozen small children, all of whom want to give me a big hug, or being out of town on business and receiving a singing message from 3 daughters who've adapted the Faith Hill lyrics. Where are you, Christmas? Why can't I find you? To where you are, Daddy. Why can't I find you? That melted my heart. When Alina, Vicky, and I were courting, we talked about how many children we wanted. It was a few more than we have so far. There's Vicky's 8, Alina's 7, and Val's 9. Good gracious. Woo! That's a lot of kids. 5 from her last marriage. Having a large family is an important aspect of our life. Every child we have is a spirit child that has gained a chance at embodied life, and we see it as a purpose of our marriage. Because of the tremendous responsibilities involved, my view is that the size of the family should be a choice based on parents' ability to provide financially and emotionally for each child. I want to connect with, relate to, and support all of my children. That's all good, but I can't imagine how that is to give 19 children at this point. Well, that's more than 19. To give all those children at this point the emotional connection that they need. Like, how much one-on-one time do they even get with you? I'm not just trying to have as many children as I can. Quality of relationship matters more than quantity of offspring. Since my marriage in 1990, nearly every year of my adult life has been marked by a birth in our family. People often ask me if I know all of my children's names. I turn the question around and ask if they know the names of more than 24 people. Of course I know each child's name, as well as all the nuances of his or her distinct personality and personal details such as a birthday. Okay. Some people find 2 or 3 children to be as much as they can handle. That's fine. But in this lifestyle, it is natural to have many children. I genuinely love children, enjoy the culture of a big family creates, and I appreciate the responsibility it requires from me, from my wives, and from each of our children. My children are fortunate to have 3 incredible mothers. That's no accident, though. We planned it this way. We each grew up with lots of siblings, which provided a good understanding of the dynamics of a big family. We also actively prepared for parenthood. Alina, Vicky, and I knew we were going to have lots of children and wanted to be the best parents possible. We prepared by reading parenting books, parent effectiveness training. The Tested New Way to Raise Responsible Children by Thomas Gordon was an early favorite. Before the birth of our first child, we also attended a conference at the Institutes for Achievement of Human Potential in Pennsylvania. We learned about brain development, teaching techniques, and the best ways to discipline children, all of which have served as our parenting blueprint over the years. We get a lot of questions about how our big family works. I like to describe it as being similar to a football team, which functions best when there's discipline, there's structure, and everyone acts in concert. Sometimes I have 6 little children, all close in age with me when I'm running errands or going on an outing. People assume I'm with a school or church group until they hear the children call me dad, dad, dad. Strangers typically are amazed by my children's good behavior. Self-discipline is something we teach our children from a very young age. When I see a 4-year-old throwing a tantrum in public, I'm amazed. With as many little children as we have, it would be chaos if we allowed that sort of meltdown to occur. Yeah, it would. When you treat children with the respect that's due to capable human beings, they live up and model that respect. That's our method. But I had it reinforced for me the hard way when I had 5 stepchildren enter my life at once. One of the times I felt most maxed out as a parent. My oldest children felt displaced by Val and her children, not understanding the process we had gone through before accepting them into our family. One day, my oldest son, who was 9 at the time, came along when I went to get a haircut, and he got upset when I engaged in a friendlier banter with the hairdresser. He figured I was trying to get another wife. When he talked to me about that concern, I knew I had some educating to do. Because Val kept her marital problems hidden from her children, they didn't understand what was happening when their parents separated. Val's son, who was 10 at the time, really resented me. He and Amanda made their feelings toward me known by being rude, inconsiderate, or non-committal. Even an offer to go to a movie or to get an ice cream was met with a sullen, I don't know. Val is a good mother and her children are well behaved. At that time, though, the children were also fearful and wounded, and they often misinterpreted my efforts to correct their behavior. I am not a physical disciplinarian, but my children know that when they get out of line, I'm not going to tolerate it. Much as I didn't want to model myself after my dad in this respect, I was a much harsher parent at the time Val joined our family than I am now. I had a short fuse and used anger to intimidate my children. I grabbed my older sons by the collar, yelling as I marched them down the hall to have a timeout. Val's children weren't used to such discipline, and they were shocked. They'd never seen someone act that way. Their reaction was a learning experience for me. It caused me to re-examine my parenting and adopt better ways of dealing with our children, especially the older ones. I guess I'm bad because I've grabbed my son by, I've done that before. Especially because he towers over me. One thing you're not going to do is think you going, you can be stronger than me all you want to. Your mama feisty. Look, you gotta do what you gotta do. I'm a woman. I'm raising a boy. He not gonna sit there and think he gonna tower over me and talk to me any kind of way. No, sometimes you gotta grab him by the collar and check them real quick and bring them back to reality so they realize I'm not your friend. This isn't your friend right now. This is mom. Teenagers are hard, all right. But imagine having 3 or 4 all at once. That can really test a parent's character. An uncle of mine who has more than 30 children likes to say, good God, 30? Having teenagers isn't for the kids. It's for the parents. Adolescence teaches the adults a lot, and the kids don't even remember it. In our most trying parenting moments, we had found the different perspectives within our poor family to be real benefit. When my oldest son was about 16, he became very hostile about our lifestyle. He blamed polygamy for everything he thought was bad in his life, from having a curfew to being expected to pay his own cell phone expenses. When he didn't pay his phone bill one month, I turned his cell phone service off. That was when I realized we had a generation gap. When I was a teenager, the worst thing that could happen to me was to lose my driving privileges. But losing access to his cell phones, which cut off his social network, was the ultimate punishment for my son. None of my son's friends were required to pay their own cell phone bills, and my son figured that the reason he had to was because there were so many children in our family. It goes deeper than that, though. I see requiring my older children to contribute to their expenses as a great way to teach them accountability, not to reduce our bills. Okay, so when they were talking about having them pay bills earlier, I was like, what? But I can understand saying to pay a cell phone bill also because when I think about it, I had to pay my cell phone bill. I did, because I started working and my mom was like, you want a phone, you're going to pay for it. So I had to pay for my cell phone bill. So it makes sense. Okay, I get it. I just didn't know where they were going with that, but I like that he kind of explained it. He wouldn't talk to me or to Alina, his mother, but Vicky was able to reach out and get my son to vent his frustrations to her, which led to his returning home 10 days later. Did I skip something? No, I didn't skip something. They just didn't say. So, oh yeah, I did. Okay, let me go back, y'all. I see requiring my older children to contribute to their expenses is a great way to teach them accountability, not reduce our bills. But my son, perceiving this as unfair, blew up one day and ran away to a friend's home. He wouldn't talk to me or Alina, his mother, but Vicky was able to reach out to him and get my son to vent his frustrations to her, which led him to returning home 10 days later. He was real mad. Having our own family safety net and being able to rely on each other's strength is one of the best things about living this way. It is a priority in my life to have strong relationships with my children and make sure that they get time with me that matters. That doesn't mean I'm there for every event in their lives. It's just not possible. For example, I don't go to a parent-teacher conference unless a child is having a major problem in school. Instead, the mothers go. I meet with each mother and child later to hear the report, a time when I get to both offer congratulations on a job well done and help set goals for improvement. But I have coached each of my son's football teams, which has given us quality time together and provided a great forum for me to teach them life lessons. I put together daddy-daughter dates with my girls for the same reason. That's good. One of my daughters began showing signs of anorexia as she entered adolescence, and her grades dropped in school. Nothing we tried was getting through to her. Nothing revealed the real problems underlying her behavior. I asked her to go for a drive with me one Friday afternoon, a pretext for a weekend away where we could spend time together. She was in crisis, and I knew she needed my full attention to feel safe enough to disclose whatever was going on. Okay, I like this. As a result of that time together, I was able to get my daughter the professional help she needed, but it was our relationship built over the years through my strong presence in her life that allowed me to recognize the signs of trouble and made it possible for my daughter to trust my efforts to help. Okay, so earlier I was talking about how did he do that with all of these kids? How did he make these kids have one-on-one time? He's showing us right here how he did it. He saw the need for it and he provided it as needed. So, okay, I can respect that. While my faith is the center of my life, I know it is not something I can force on my children. All of my children have to determine for themselves what they believe and not rely on the faith of their parents. As my children get older, I encourage them to attend different churches to learn what others believe and how they worship. For a time, LDS church missionaries visited our family. They were amazed at how much my children knew about the scriptures. Many of my children also have attended LDS church religious education classes that are offered as an elective option in Utah's public secondary school system. I worry that some of my children will blame our lifestyle for every mishap and hardship in their lives. Statistics and family history tells me that not all of my children will choose to follow this religion or enter plural marriage. That's okay. That's their choice. I will love them regardless. Our decision to enter this lifestyle wasn't about perpetuating polygamy. It was about creating a family and following what we believe to be true. Whether or not living the principle is in their path is between each of my children and his or her Father in heaven. I am raising my children to be capable of living this lifestyle if they choose to have the faith, wisdom, and emotional intelligence to be successful at it. Even if their path leads elsewhere, that grounding means they will be well prepared for life. My ultimate hope is that my children will view our decision to live this way with respect and pride rather than shame. Okay, I can respect it. That was a good chapter. Gave us a little bit more into their parenting styles and things of that nature. Also let us know, some of the things that they've encountered as problems, how they handle them, how he creates one-on-one time, how they parent together when they're younger, how when they're adolescents, they have it more be a thing between the mom and their child as well as the father, and how they just want them to be productive individuals, and they understand that some of their children, a lot of their children maybe, may not become polygamists. So that is the end. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you have not done so already. We are on the road to 2,000. I'm just gonna call the number out. Ain't no point in saying to me, I was gonna say like 1,500. No, 2,000. 2,000 sounds better. I want it to be understood. I said it in another video, but I might as well say it in this. I have been doing YouTube for a little bit of time now, and I feel like I've gotten into this place where I'm really enjoying it. And I enjoy the interaction with you all. And I feel like, we're friends and family over here. it's different. I try to explain that to one of my friends because she watches, and she said that she sees some of the comments and she's like, you know, Tish, you really are helping some people. And I was like, what? And then I thought about it and I was like, this is helping me too. So, you know, I really appreciate you all. And I don't want you guys to think like, oh, she made 1,000, so now she wants even more. Yeah. Of course I want more. I want this to be a thing where not only do we get to watch shows, to read books, I want to do other things as well. And I really do enjoy it. And I'm finally at the point where it's now monetized. I am trying to see what it looks like with these ads. Y'all, I got to figure this ad thing out because on my older videos, they're beat to death with ads. Like I looked at it, one of the old ones, and it was like every 3 minutes there was an ad. And I just think that's a bit much. I got to play with it a little. I need to have my son do it because this is his thing, not mine. But I don't want to add y'all to death. And I know that part of the way that you get monetized is through the ads and having people, you know, watch the ads. But if you got 10 ads in 20 minutes, are you really going to watch a 15-second ad? No, you're going to hit skip because you're going to be annoyed. Because I get annoyed when I watch certain people on YouTube and it's like ad after ad after ad after ad. So I'm trying to see what it's going to look like. The more that I build up some subscribers, the better it is. I want to try to keep those ads down. Please bear with me as I figure that whole thing out. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. And until next time.